Welcome to In the Circle Live, following what we can only describe as a destruction. Oklahoma 16, Texas 1. It's the biggest blowout in the history of the National Championship Series. The Oklahoma tied the most runs scored in a National Championship Series game. They hit 6 home runs in the game. But hey, Texas did lead 1-0 after a half inning. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Victor Anderson. Make sure you subscribe to our In the Circle live show here on our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. Our numbers have been blowing up. We appreciate you for that. In the Circle SB on Twitter. You make sure you follow us there, like us on Facebook. We got our podcast is coming out tomorrow night. Victor, tell us about the podcast because I know it's a big one.
Yeah, Podcast of Champions, Division II and Division III. Rogers State head coach Andrea Vaughn from the national champion Wildcats and Keith Parr from the Division III national champion Captains of Christopher Newport. They'll be on the podcast tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and download, turn on your notifications. Make sure you have everything set there. And then coming up in just a few moments, we're going to be joined by Kenzie Fowler.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to get her thoughts on what we all witnessed this evening and just the historic dominance. And Jesse said it. Look at this stat. 31-1, the combined score since Oklahoma lost to UCLA on that Monday noon game.
It's ridiculous. And Texas got off to a good start. They led 1-0 after a half inning. You got Haley Docini on, and it didn't matter. Jocelyn Alo hit the 2-run homer, and they're off to the races. And Oklahoma destroyed them 16-1. You know it's bad when people are like, why don't we have the run rule?
Mm-hmm.
Victor, I mean, just what an offensive display. And, you know, some of these numbers for Oklahoma this year are down to last year, but Jocelyn Alo is just in a different world. This team's in a different world. You mentioned the conference. What was it? What are you calling tomorrow's episode?
The podcast of champ. We're talking about Oklahoma. Or you talk about
our podcast.
The podcast of champions.
I feel like if we would have delayed that 24 hours, we might have added a third team there with Oklahoma because I got to tell you I don't know. How did Texas come back from that? How do you come back from that? That was an absolute destruction. Like, Texas came out confident, loosey-goosey, right? Nothing to lose. Hey, we're feeling good. And then Oklahoma smashed them. And I mean smashed them.
Smashed them and stacked them.
Wow. I can't wait to ask Kenzie Fowler that because I don't know what to say. They were teeing off the Texas.
We have run out of superlatives, and there were a lot of questions that people were talking about, and we'll bring this up if not during our live stream tonight, probably during our preview tomorrow. And we got people already asking questions about Jordy Ball, and
I think she's going to start tomorrow. Yeah, I think she's going to start tomorrow based on Nicole May coming in relief today. By the way, Hope Trotwine once again quietly after the first inning was rock solid. It was fantastic going 5 innings. We keep forgetting about her, but she was fantastic. But, I mean, I know that tomorrow's a new day and you're going to, and all that, man. But, man, Oklahoma looked locked in. You saw them last year in person. We were talking about how we thought last year was the best offense in the history of the sport. They've already scored more runs in this World Series than they did all of last year. You saw that in person last year. Describe this offense. You've seen it.
You said, Eric, on many podcasts before that the 2013 Oklahoma Sooners might be the greatest college softball team ever put together. I am inclined to say that this Oklahoma team might be the most dominant college softball team that I've ever seen. I noticed I didn't say best. I said dominant.
I think you can make the case for both. I mean, if they finish this off tomorrow, I mean, And because I was asked about where does this team rank, and I'm like, I want to see how if they put an exclamation point in the Champ Series. I mean, and this is pretty close to exclamation point. If they put up another whooping tomorrow night, that's a coronation, Victor. And let me just say this real quick. I think the question should be widened. It's not, is this the best softball team ever? Is this one of the best college teams, period? Any sport.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
My God.
They're up there in terms of dominance. They're up there with the early 2000 UConn women's basketball teams with Gino Oriano, where he had Sue Bird, Swing Cash, Diana Taurasi.
Yeah, but here's the thing. With respect to those things, like in women's basketball, all the good players went to UConn, right? So there was a clear. This is not supposed to happen in softball. There's parity. There's talent all around the board. They're putting up video game numbers, Vic. Like, if there was a video game for softball and you played it, I don't think you could put up the numbers that they're making this look easier than it is. That's what's insane.
And you know who deserves a lot of credit? Thank you, 1988 Boomer Sooner, for bringing his name up. JT Gasso. He is the brains behind this offense in terms of their approach, how they scout, how they relay information back to their teammates. Every at bat. It's so difficult to keep this Sooner team in check through 7 innings. We've seen that time and time again. And I believe the stat was, after the 3 losses that they suffered, they won all 3 games by a combined score of 39-0 after a loss. And you're asking a Texas team who had to play all 7 innings, be on that field with 75% of the crowd rooting for Oklahoma. And I know Bill Plaschke and all those people.
Hold on. This game could have been played in Alaskan. I don't think it would have mattered.
No.
I'm sorry. Mark Barnett say, Mike's telling his team right now, look at where we are. Win 2 games and we are the national champs. This is a dream to be in this position. Normally, I agree. And, hey, look, if you're Mike White, you got to spin it the way you can. But, I mean, how do you slow – you can't – here's the problem, that you can't get into a shootout with Oklahoma, number one. You can't make – you know this. I know this. We said this on the pre – if you're making more errors than hits, Texas had 4 errors, 3 hits was scored. They had 3 hits, they made 4 errors. You're not going to win that way. And you're certainly not going to come close to beating Oklahoma. Right? I mean, this is right. I don't know. And Oklahoma knows all the Texas pitchers. There's no secrets here, Vic. I don't how do you slow them down? Maybe you hope that Oklahoma gets cocky, but they've never shown that to this point.
No. And here's the thing I was going to mention, Eric. Oklahoma is going to be the visiting team in game 2. I told you, and Eric, I told you this when OU played Texas in the winner's bracket game on Saturday. You do not want Oklahoma to jump on you early and get that already juiced up crowd even more fired up. Now you're in a – and yes, Texas is 6-0 in elimination games. I understand that. But you let Oklahoma score 4 runs in the top of the first, knowing there's no run rule, knowing you have to beat them to get to Friday night. I'm not saying that is impossible, but it's after what happened.
Well, and this is something we'll get into with Fowler, too. The big debate. Do you pitch to Alo? Do you not pitch to Alo? I mean, the problem is the reason why people pitch to Alo because then you got to pitch to Jennings, and Jennings makes you pay too. But that's, I mean, it's pick your poison. It's pick your poison. I mean, Jocelyn Alo is the best hitter in the sport, maybe ever. Like, she's putting up ridiculous numbers. It's not like she's all or nothing. She can hit to all fields. So, look, I think the one good news here's the only thing I can think of, and again, I'll defer to Kenzie Fowler when we get her on here shortly. They pulled Docini early in that first inning. I think she's going to start game 2. Maybe you see Czech start tomorrow, but you're going to see Czech and Docini early tomorrow. Don't you think, Victor?
Oh, absolutely. I would think so, too.
And then hope. And you got to hope at that point that you could slip. They're not going to win a shootout. No one is going to beat. I don't think the New York Yankees can beat Oklahoma right now in a shootout. You've got to keep them under bay. And we said this in the pregame. Andrew Haynes was on with us last night. And you have to slow down the top of the order for Oklahoma 1, 2, 3, and they didn't even come close to that. So let's bring in our expert. Well, maybe she'll have some answers because I don't.
Hopefully,
she's our friend, folks. Of course, she does the softball, the Pac-12 network. Of course, she was an All-American at Arizona, played for the national championship in 2010. She's like versatile. She could do it all, ladies and gentlemen. She's our friend Kenzie Fowler joining us, as we like to call it here, Fowler After Dark. Here in the postgame. Just give me your thoughts on what we just witnessed.
I was hoping you could give me your thoughts because I don't really have anything.
That was a destruction, Kenzie. That was a destruction. What if you're Texas right now? How do you put this behind you? And I know that Mike White's going to say, hey, tomorrow's a new day. It's all this. But, man, I mean, how do you get over? I mean, how do you put that behind you that quickly? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I just hope that, I hope Texas feels that it's not just them, that Oklahoma can do this to anyone. So it's one thing that, it's very easy to be embarrassed on that stage. And I just hope that they understand the situation. They understand who they're playing against. Obviously, they've beat them before. So it's not like, oh, poor us, poor me type of thing, because they've been able to slay them one time this season. But I think there's just no shaking the fact that this is one of the best teams, if not the best team in all of college sports ever. And so, you got to be able to rebound and go out there and just give a performance that you're proud of. And I think that's the biggest thing, that obviously tonight, probably not what they wanted, win or lose regardless, but go out there tomorrow with a little bit more of just their swagger that we've seen this whole tournament.
Play a cleaner game defensively, too. 4 errors. You're not going to beat anybody, let alone Oklahoma. And I thought one of the early big plays was the play where Docini fielded the ball through to second and was not good for an error. I know she was trying to get the force out, but maybe against Oklahoma, you're better off taking the shore out there, Kenzie. I mean, because that really opened it up in the first inning for OU.
There were a couple of times defensively where they went for the lead out when I was thinking, no, get the out. Just walk over to first base and get the out, because double plays at this point, like, you don't even want to gamble. Just get the out. Every out is so crucial when you play Oklahoma and a team like that. So just trying maybe to do too much and trying to play too perfect, knowing that you have to be perfect against Oklahoma. And sometimes when you know you have to be perfect, you're not perfect. So I think just going back to their swagger and just playing their game and not even worrying about what the score is going to be and not even worrying about if they're going to win or lose, just because the only chance you have is to play with their swagger like they did when they were at home in Austin, with nothing to lose. The series was already done, but hey, let's go out there and give it everything we have. So, it could be that kind of mentality where they feel like maybe the series is already won, like it is in conference, and nothing to lose type of a game 3 scenario. But yeah, you got to be perfect, and defense was not there for them.
Well, and Texas, I mean, they had issues during the regular season defensively, but they've been playing great defensively in the postseason during this run. That's why they've been so successful. Even Mike White's alluded to that, how well they've played defensively. From those plays, do you think that was just trying to do too much? Is that Oklahoma, getting it, trying to do too much here in the big stage against Oklahoma? What did you see there in some of those defensive miscues from Texas?
I think the game just getting quick, and when you're on that stage and you're thinking about who you're pitching to and who's on deck, everything just amps up really quickly. And so, Coach Candrea would always tell us, when you're on the biggest stage, the game gets quick. And if the game gets quick and you're not ready for it, then you're not going to win. And I feel like that's what we saw tonight from Texas. So just a little bit of a game got big quickly. And, the hitters are looming as a defense, as a pitcher. Every single time you're pitching against Alo, Jennings, Lyons, like the list just goes on. You're almost more consumed of who's coming up next. What do I have to do after this person? Because it's so daunting at times, I feel like. So, yeah, game just got quick. And maybe it's just one of those things where they need to kind of feel that moment, feel it, get it out of the way, and rebound for tomorrow.
Vic, go ahead. You got questions there for Kenzie.
Well, obviously, the question that everybody's been asking is, do you pitch to Jocelyn Alo? If so, what would, in your position, would you pitch to Jocelyn Alo?
There it is. There's literally Kenzie. There's the question. 82 Boomers Sooner.
Thank you.
Literally
Thank you for
asking
asking the question. Thank you for asking the question.
It's totally situational. Totally situational because Jennings right behind her is, Alo number 2, like baby Alo. So it's totally situational. It's totally depends on the count, depends if people are on base, depends on what inning. If it's the 7th inning and there's a runner at second, no, because I can say this because I've been there. I gave up a World Series home run to Megan Legenfield, who was the best hitter in the pack, and it was the game-winning home run. And so I can say this because I have experience. Don't let the best player beat you. It'll haunt you the rest of your life. And Megan Langenfeld and I are good pals now. Everything's all great. But, in the moment, I should have had somebody else beat me other than the best player in the Pac-12. So just depends on the count. I feel like a lot of times, too, the 2-strike pitches that she's hit out are way too close. It's one of those things where as a pitcher, you attack it versus like if she's going to hit my stuff, it's going to be, 2 feet outside. And if she doesn't bait, then okay, she earned that walk. Great. And I'm going to kind of have the same attack plan for Jennings. But there's been a lot of, I feel like we've been talking about this a lot. A lot of her home runs have been to left field. A lot of them have been on screwballs, backdoor curves as well. And as a tactical pitching standpoint, those are 2 pitches to me, whereas if you miss, they're cookie misses versus a drop ball that you miss, it's going to miss out of the zone. A rise ball that if you miss, it's going to miss out of the zone this way. Backdoor curves, if it misses, it's going to be breaking into the plate. A screwball, if it misses, usually, if it's not going to hit her, it's going to miss and hang over the inside part of the plate. So it's just kind of risky pitch choices at times, in my opinion, just as an observer. I'm kind of like, where are the off-speed curves outside? Where are the, the drops away, the rise really high in, kind of splitting the plate this way. But, I mean, she's tough. She's the best that there's ever going to be. So if the game's on the line, long story short, no.
Where do you, you've played against some great players. You've played with great players and hitters. Where do you, describe what you see from Jocelyn Alo, because we talk so much about the home runs, but she hits for a high average. Like, she's hitting, I think she's putting up video game numbers. She's like she's getting a base hit 2 out of her 3 at-bats every 3 at-bats. She's hitting over 600. Like, it's not like she's boom or bust. She can hit a high average, and it's to the point where if you're the opponent, you're almost glad when she only gets a base hit, but she's getting on base a lot. I think I've never seen a hitter like her in my 15 years. You tell me, where do you put her all time from what you've seen?
The best ever. The best ever.
What makes her so that good?
Well, I just watch her and I like put myself in the pitcher's shoes, and I hated it when hitters, especially power hitters, would stand off the plate, and she gives you so much space inside, and she just baits you to throw her anything inside. And when power hitters are standing off of the plate, to me as a pitcher, it always told me that they were confident in the outside corner and they were ready to be baited inside. I loved it when power hitters were on the plate because then sometimes I could use something hard and to jam them up. She leaves the plate open for you, which is really daunting. So it's not really, as a pitcher, you're like, I don't really know where she's looking, but she's leaving that plate open, and then she just goes to town and hammers, whether it inside, outside, high, low. And also what I think makes her so good is her patience and her eye. Her eye is incredible. If you watch her walk, she takes pitches that honestly she could hit. She takes some pitches for ball four, and I'm like, girl, you could have hit that over the fence easy, but she takes it because she's not going to change her approach. She's not going to go outside her zone. And so I'm just really impressed with the power that she has and the plate discipline, because I've been around so many hitters that hit 20 home runs a year, but also lead the team in strikeouts. And that's just you just kind of live and die with the big swing. That's just how it is. She has a very good eye at the plate. And that to me is what makes her so dangerous, because it starts with the eyes.
We talk about, Kenzie, this OU offense, and rightfully so, but we have to put a little bit more talking about what Hope Troutwine and this pitching staff of OU has done, because they have been able to pitch freely and with a confidence and an aggressiveness, knowing that if you give up a couple of runs, you have an offense that can get those runs back to you probably the next at bat. As a pitcher, how freeing is it for you to know that you can have an offense that can give you that run support and you don't have to be on your A game, so to speak, and still get the job done?
Yeah, it's really interesting because this pitching staff is incredibly talented, but nobody talks about them. So I kind of feel bad because it's just, the home runs and Alo, Jennings, Coleman, so I do feel bad at times because Troutwine, she was dealing tonight, and she's been dealing this whole tournament, and especially in just her one season, only getting to watch her in this Sooner uniform for 1 year. But it is always interesting. I always just think about them, like, if you take this pitching staff and put them on a different team, how tested are they? I would just like to see them kind of feel the adversity, because I'm going to be honest, they haven't really had it. So as a pitcher who's pitched in the World Series and the tight ball games going down to the extra wire, kind of gives you just the extra juices. And I have some of my best memories from some of those games, and it's been kind of an easy go of it for these pitchers. Not to say they're not talented; they're incredibly talented. Excited to maybe see Jordy Ball tomorrow.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's the thing I got to give Troutwine credit. I mean, Jordy Ball hasn't been a factor in the postseason, really. Right. She's pitched 2 games in relief. One was just to get one out. I mean, Troutwine had to step up here. I think back to the winner's bracket game in the regional against A&M. That was a 3-2 game, tight game. Even the UCF Supers, she had to be strong because it wasn't like they were just teeing off on UCF pitching. She has kind of been an unsung hero that nobody has talked about because of Jordy Ball popularity and all that. But she's kind of been an unsung hero to keep this staff, because Nicole Mays had their kind of been up and down.
You were there for the Supers and watching their regionals against A&M and that regional in Minnesota. Do you feel like those games have been closer than the World Series games?
Yes. I've talked to I had Joey Helmer on. We had Joey Helmer from the 247, covers Oklahoma, and is covering the World Series. He said UCF. He was impressed with UCF. He thinks UCF. Okay, that's not me. Victor was actually he could describe it. He said that UCF he was impressed with him. He said they were a legit team and that they were better than some of the teams at the World Series field. And quite frankly, UCF's giving you Oklahoma better games than Texas did tonight for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting because whoever got that 16 seed, it's like, it's not fair.
So listen, I mean, I might joke about this to some extent because I don't know if you heard, but UCF is known for claiming stuff. I'm prepared to claim tomorrow if Oklahoma does this again and put up this score, I'm ready to proclaim UCF as the runner-up.
All
right. I'm just calling it because I feel like I agree with you. If UCF plays anybody else, they might have. I mean, I feel like that's everybody, and it was a kind of a quiet storyline. There were a lot of teams that didn't want to host to avoid Oklahoma in that 16. They rather go on the road, and I think Texas actually benefited from that hosting to go on the road. And listen, credit to them to go to Washington, win the regional, go to Arkansas, a heck of a run. But if they hosted, they might have been the 16 and play Oklahoma. So, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we'll get into this if they close this out. But is this the best softball team we've seen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I just needed to hear from somebody that knows what they're talking about.
But it's because of the offense. It's not the greatest pitching staff. We've had, better pitching staffs. Right?
Sure.
It's because of the offense. The offense is the team, and you have to. You can't. Doesn't matter who else you throw out there. If you're gonna 16 runs, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But it's the best offense we'll ever see.
It's just, I still can't believe it. Texas led 1-0, Kenzie.
Yeah.
I thought they got off to a really good start.
Yeah.
Troutwine was a little wild. I thought they were feeling good. They were feeling with confidence. We've talked about it. I thought the smart thing that Mike White did was pulling Docini that quick. Did you agree with that? Because you're going to need her tomorrow night, and that's the one thing that I will say from a Texas perspective is he pulled Docini early, so she should be ready to go tomorrow. We didn't see Estelle check. That's what I mean. That's my selling pitch if I'm Texas, right?
I would not have started Dulcini.
Ooh, okay. Do tell.
Because when you face Oklahoma, you have to know a pitcher's not going to go full 7. It's just not going to happen, especially at this point in the stage. So you're going to have to use all hands on deck. Why not use them the way that they should be utilized? And I feel like Dulcini needs adrenaline right now. She's too tired. You can tell her speeds aren't there. Her spins aren't breaking like they have been earlier in the year, which, I mean, she's pitched her arm off. So I've been there, done that. Like, you can't fault her for that. She's just running on adrenaline right now. And if you're running on adrenaline, you need to feel that in the 6th, 7th inning, where she can, like, okay, let's go. But you can't create that in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd inning. So I would not have started her. I would have held her and then maybe start the lefty, check, and then maybe bring in Simpson 2nd time through the lineup, and then see where you're at. And if you're kind of hanging in there, then bring in Dulcini for the adrenaline for, hey, let's shut the door right now. 1 time through the lineup. Let's go. Hit a spot. And, yeah, I was kind of surprised they started Dulcini.
And so you're in Texas's position. You just got beat down. There's no sugarcoating it. What happened tonight? What is your message to the team going into tomorrow, knowing that you have to win this game to keep your season alive? How do you handle that situation?
It's interesting because I was sitting on the couch watching, and I was like, you know, if you're going to lose game 1 and you know you have to rebound, would you rather lose it in this fashion where it's like, you know, the game was over in the 3rd inning? Or would you rather lose it like the way I lost it in 2010, 1 run in extra innings, where it's a complete heartbreaker and you're just left standing on the field not knowing what just hit you? So I feel like if you're going to have to rebound, it's like, I don't know, maybe the slow death is the better way to, like, okay, start getting – because then you can start, like, turning your mental and start playing the little chess matches of, okay, I'm just trying to get a better look at this pitch, or let's get a little bit more data about this hitter. Let's try some things. Let's try some experimental things with our pitchers who probably, you know, Sherry Leary, probably not going to pitch tomorrow. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. I was thinking, having that conversation with myself, would you rather be blown out and kind of be able to, okay, easy, we know we didn't win, or like, bam, last inning, you're heartbroken type of thing, and you have to rebound?
Well, I think they got to get off to a good start tomorrow. If they get off, you know, throw it out, right, and get off to a good start tomorrow. Let me ask you this. Who would you start if you're Mike White tomorrow then?
The lefty. Let's go.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
check.
Are you going – but are you getting a short leash? I mean, is this by committee? Or are you going to let her – I mean, what's your strategy against this OU lineup? You want check, but how long do you keep her in? Like, do you let her – give her a long leash?
Yeah, I would go – it sounds so crazy, but I would go literally 1 time through the lineup at a time. And you could go check 1 time through the lineup, then Simpson 1 time through the lineup. Bring back in check 1 time.
So you go by committee.
Yes.
Okay.
And then have Dulcini come in 5th inning.
So you think Docini's just gassed? I mean, you're right. She's thrown a ton of pitches.
Yeah.
When did you notice that from her? Did you notice that Monday night? Like, when did you notice
yesterday,
that she?
Or they're not yesterday.
Monday night.
Yes, Monday.
Right? Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, and Mike White mentioned that, because remember, a lot of people were surprised that he started check in game 2, right after she had just pitched the shutout, and he said to the sideline reporter Andrea Carter that Docini was just kind of gassed a little bit. Now she came in relief. Yep. It was good, but I mean, the kid's left it on the field. I mean, I've heard she's not 100%. She's probably going to need some sort of procedure afterwards. So give her credit. She's made a name for herself at Texas, but unfortunately, this is not the team that you want to be less than 100% against.
No. And so it's just one of those things where the only way to utilize her right now is in relief. It's too much. I think you're going to get more out of her in relief with adrenaline, with things on the line, and then you just you can feel her pitching with her soul versus in the early inning of this game tonight, she was more pitching with her brain, and you just her stuff wasn't there, and she'll probably tell you that, like, no, I'm barely hanging on. So yeah, if you're going to use her later in the game, would be the best bet.
My other suggestion is maybe they should just sneak in Kat Osterman for an inning or two. Right? I mean, try something. I think we're assuming Jordy Ball gets the ball here for the Sooners tomorrow night. Do you expect that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect her to probably go the whole game because you can tell right now they're just very careful with the pitch count. But I would love to see her get that experience and get that exposure.
What did you see if you saw her on Monday against UCLA? Mm-hmm. They were commenting, and we talked about this. I talked with Elisa Goler and Laura Trout in our pregame show, and they even said this on the ESPN broadcast Monday that they noticed Jordy wasn't throwing as many rise balls than she normally does. She was throwing more drops, and that perhaps that's because of the injury that she has. What did you see? Did you see something like that? What did you notice from her on Monday?
Well, I will tell you that if you are having any forearm fatigue, any forearm pain, the rise ball is going to be your enemy because that is the pitch that you've got to, when you spin a rise ball, which I have a ball with me, but you're using all your fingers and your forearm is just going to light up. It's what makes, if you grab a hold of any pitcher's arm, and especially a rise ball pitcher, their forearm is just going to be jacked. My forearm used to be like the size of a softball compared to my other arm because I was a rise ball pitcher. Obviously, I don't pitch anymore, so it's not like that anymore. But it's definitely the most strain on that part of the body. So drop ball is going to be a little bit more natural. Curve, not as bad. So definitely you can tell strategic there. But I thought her location got better throughout the UCLA game. I thought she came in and balls were a little bit too much over the heart of the plate. And then as the innings went on, you could see her start to spread the plate more, and her movement was kind of falling off how it should be. So I think that's good news for Oklahoma. And, she's so young, and this is a team and a program where they expect to be back again next year. And you can't buy this type of experience. And of course, Troutwine is the go-to girl right now. And I would, best case scenario, you give Jordy the start, let her go, 4 innings, and then let Troutwine come in and close the door.
Patty Gasso did say in her media availability that Jordy Ball is good to go, which was the first time. She's been very confident. She said she was good to go for the World Championship Series, and I thought that was interesting. She pulled Troutwine after 5 to bring in Nicole in relief. You think that was part of the strategy to kind of save Troutwine there a little bit, just in case you need her tomorrow to close it out? You thought that was okay?
Oh, yeah. I was surprised they waited as long as they did, to be honest. It was like 12-1 or something when May came in, or 14-1. I was like,
well, the problem is Coach Gasso is not used to coaching a lot of 7-inning games this year. So,
exactly.
Right, Victor?
Yeah, she's usually done shaking hands after 5 innings.
She's like, oh, wait, we got to go 7. I forgot.
What a problem.
But actually, Aaron, that brings us to my next question. Of course, with the championship series, Kenzie, there is no run rule, unlike the rest of the World Series. With what we're seeing from Oklahoma tonight, and a lot of people feel may be a repeat of that tomorrow night, should we have the run rule be in place for the championship series?
This is how good Oklahoma is. We're making now rules on the fly. This is supposed to be the 2 best teams in the country, and we're talking about adding the run rule.
No, there shouldn't. There shouldn't be a run rule in the champ series.
Oh, that's great.
But,
I love it.
It's so hard because we're all sitting here going, wait, there's no run rule because this game should be over because that's just part of our game, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, I still think there shouldn't be one in the champ series because,
normally you wouldn't have to worry about it.
No.
Except for tonight. We're speaking with Kenzie Fowler, Pac-12 network analyst, former Arizona Wildcat great. Don't worry, we will be talking to her about some of those Pac-12-ish topics because it's been a busy week for the Pac in the news items, including your state. We're going to talk about that. Plus, are we going to have Kenzie Fowler in Clearwater in 2023, Victor? We're going to have to ask her about that. That's all coming up. Yeah, I'll explain. Trust me. On that in a moment. All right. Give me a Texas hitter that needs to step up tomorrow.
Jefferson.
Janae Jefferson set the tone.
Yeah, and whoever's surrounding Bella Dayton.
Yeah, she's been good. A transfer from Arizona. She's been really rock solid for them. Might have been their best player tonight.
Best she's ever looked. I watched her first couple years at Arizona. Always had the talent. I mean, she was always the fastest player on the team, but she was kind of a short gamer. She was just a tap and go type of kid, and she's been swinging away for Texas, lacing doubles, triples. So whoever's surrounding her, you've got to jump on that rhythm. You've got to jump on that hitting is contagious and try and get your rally sparked right there because she's got it going. So obviously you look to Jefferson because she's the girl at the top, but after that, whoever's batting in front or behind of Dayton, got to keep that rally going anytime she gets on base.
Would you tweak the lineup if you're Texas, or you keep it the way it is from that standpoint to muster some offense? Because it's important for them to get off to a good start early on. Obviously, you want to put some zeros from a pitching stuff. You got to score some runs early to get that confidence. Do you tweak the lineup at all, or do you just go with it and just hope that tomorrow you get off to a better start, even though OU is the, quote, visiting team?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what the lineup's been throughout this point. I haven't been paying that close of attention if he's been changing it throughout the tournament or if he's kind of had the same 9 all the way through, because I feel like at this point, it's why mess with the mental if it's been the same way? Just put it out there. But if you've been changing it, then just keep moving people around. So it just depends on. I've seen coaches kind of do that both ways. So it depends on what the coach has been doing, because you don't want to. One game, right? One game, you don't want to mess up the psyche much more than it already is messed up. So it just depends on what they've been doing.
Victor, I think this Kenzie Fowler's got a future in broadcasting.
I've heard about that. Yes,
pretty good. I want to switch topics here because we can only talk about a blowout so much. We've talked about the keys tomorrow, but I want to ask you this while I have a chance that we have you here, because there's been some news this week involving the Pac-12. Let's start with the big one off the field. Trisha Ford going from Arizona State to Texas A&M. My sources tell me that you called this around some people while you were at OKC, so you weren't surprised like others were. Just kind of expand on that as you kind of figured this out.
Yeah, of course, I have a different vantage point being over here on the West Coast, being in the state of Arizona. But I do have witnesses that I called it a week before. I said, Coach Ford's going to go. I said, she's going to be the next coach at A&M. I said, it makes sense. People kind of thought I was crazy, but hey, not anymore. I got it. It's hard because it's such a big loss for the Pac, because Coach Ford is one of my favorite coaches to cover, and what she's been able to do in a short time, really, at Arizona State, and really building that program back up, getting it to, top 8 seed. Of course, they didn't make it to OKC, but it's a big accomplishment, winning the Pac over UCLA or Washington or even Arizona, big accomplishment. But you think about the Pac-12 coaches, and I know this is always a talking point, how many of them are alums of their schools, and that's what keeps them there. I think there's so many coaches who, if they weren't alums of their schools, they would have been maybe going for that A&M job. So I look to Coach Ford because she's not an alum. She wasn't an alum from Arizona State, and so it made sense. The most sense for A&M to come grab her and for her to pursue that big-time job.
See, Victor, we've been making this mistake. We keep having Justin McLeod to talk about these coaching moves. We really should be having Fowler on.
Well,
shade to Justin. What did I do?
Yeah, exactly. What are we doing here?
No, that's a good way.
Kenzie, this is Eric's thing. Anytime we have a guest on, he always likes to butter up the guest, tries to undercut the people we've had on the show previously, a la Justin, so he can get himself in good graces of the guest who's appearing on our live.
Listen, did Justin? She got it. Justin didn't. All right, that's all I'm
scoreboard. He can handle it. He's good.
I think he's all right. He understands how this works. How do you think Trisha Ford will do at A&M?
I think it's going to be different in terms of what kind of team success that she's had, because it's been an offensive team. It's been the home runs, the firepower. But people don't know, but they forget what a quality pitching coach she is. She's a top 10 pitching coach in the country. And when you get out of that dry air, that thin air, and you get into a little bit of humidity, I would be, I shouldn't say shocked, but I would not be surprised if she turns A&M into a pitching powerhouse.
Ooh, back to the days of Scarborough and Gibson, perhaps?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very valid. Very valid point. Very valid point there. Now, with the Arizona State job open, Kenzie, what is Arizona State going to look for now in terms of who they hired to replace Tricia Ford? Because they don't have the resources like at A&M, like very few schools outside the SEC do have those types of resources in the facilities. Where does Arizona State go from here in terms of who they look for their next head coach?
Obviously hard to say, but I think you try and go find the next Tricia Ford. She was an up-and-comer. She was, not that she was a nobody, she was one of the best players, the best player to ever come out of St. Mary's, and was doing great things with Fresno State. So I think you look for that exact same type of situation, and you find someone up and coming who's coming off of a hot season, who wants to take a leap to a Power 5. And I think it's there's a lot of coaches out there that maybe, Eric, you're smiling a little bit. I don't know if you know something, but yeah, I think there's a lot of coaches out there that would look to this job to be the next key step in their career. Interesting.
Hey, Eric, how about you take yourself off mute so you can talk to Kenzie? How about that?
No, I'm just thinking about what Fowler said. Tricia Ford had Fresno within a possibility of hosting in 2016 before she came to Arizona State. I think there's some names I'm sure people can think about for that job. What would you say because you've called games there? So for whoever ends up there, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them as far as the key to being successful over there in Tempe?
I think a big key is it's great recruiting. You get a roster that's half California kids, half Arizona kids, where you can keep kids in state and keep a bigger roster size because of tuition and whatnot. And so many Southern California families can make that easy drive to Tempe, barely 6 hours, I think. So you want to talk about key recruiting, one of the biggest cities, a lot of job opportunity for your girls after they graduate. So many players come to Arizona State and then stay within the area after they graduate. So a lot of opportunity there for a good fan base as well. They had some really good turnouts this season. I was really impressed with what she was able to get, especially late in the season when it was temperatures of 100 plus. The fans were still coming out, bringing the umbrellas, doing what they need to do to support. So the support is there. The recruiting, I think, is not recruiting's never easy, but it's one of the easier places to recruit. So I think it's a good job for an up and coming coach for sure.
Does the next coach have to have West Coast ties or Pac-12 ties?
I think they want them to be. I think they want them to have West Coast ties. I think it just fits. Now, would I be surprised? No, because there's so many young coaches out there that, could deserve an opportunity like this. But I think it helps. I think the administration likes that because it just, it has that tie-in with the fan base and kind of lets them know that they know the area very well. And I think that's one thing that Coach Ford brought to Tempe is she was able to continue to recruit California very well. And so I'm going to be very interested to see how she recruits at Texas A&M. Does she continue to keep those ties with Southern California and with Arizona? Because she has a lot of ties now with the recruiting club teams in Arizona, with her young daughter being just 14, playing club softball, and a lot of her players from Southern California. So it'll be interesting to kind of watch the next couple of months and see how, just early this first year, how the roster starts to take shape.
You and I have talked about this at length. I think there's a lot of great coaches in the Pac-12. They're not just leaving. I think the misconception is, oh, they're leaving. They're make more money in the SEC. There's some truth to that, but there's also facility questions. You and I have talked about this. I remember when UCLA won the national title. You were on with us afterwards, and we've talked about the Pac-12 and needing to help out from a facility standpoint. Now, some schools since then have done that, but that's not everybody in the Pac-12. And I think that's something that's missing in this angle, because a lot of people were criticizing me for saying, hey, I think Ford made the right move. And people are like, what are you talking about? It's a Pac-12 job versus an A&M job, and the whole debate with that. But I don't think people understand all the behind the scenes. A&M has one of the most incredible facilities in the sport.
Thank you. I was like, when I saw her go, I was like, I was applauding. I'm like, that's a good move for her. Like, have you seen that ballpark? It's an MLB ballpark. Like,
I've heard.
You're not going to be able to coach there anywhere else. So good move for her. Really happy for her. She deserves it. But you're right. It's past time for a lot of these schools to get their facilities in order. And there's only a handful of facilities in the Pac right now that are kind of living up to that Power 5 expectation, if you will. So covering UCLA this last month in regionals, talking to Kelly I, she was very excited because it sounds like they are starting talks, quote unquote talks, with architects for Easton Stadium. So
what's about time if there's any program?
Yes. So obviously that doesn't mean they're going to get a new stadium tomorrow, but the talks just haven't been there before. So the fact that talks are being started and happening is a good sign. So we'll take it and keep moving forward. But I think it's going to be very important for next year. We're going to have the first Pac-12 tournament. I can't say where it's going to be. I do know. I can't say. I'm sorry. I can't. They haven't announced it yet. I've been waiting for
What's
them.
taking them so long? Anyway,
I don't know. I don't know why they haven't announced it. I would announce it during the World Series and get all that pub about it. But what do I know? But I think they have said they're going to rotate sites like they do with the SEC and ACC and all that. So I think that's going to be very telling. You know, there's years are going to be counted, and it's like, hey, if you want your turn, you got to meet expectations, and so maybe that'll push administrations to like, okay, let's ante it up here, and if we want to host, we need to meet some things.
But I think the biggest problem is, Kenzie, and Eric and I kind of talked about this. The Pac-12 can't rely on the fact that, we're the conference of champions. We have the history. You have to meet what's going on in the game, and that's facilities, that's resources for the student athletes. NIL is becoming a bigger part of the game, and that's going to continue to grow. And I remember we had Mike Kendrea on a few years ago, and how excited he was to finally get renovations at Hillenbrand. So when Pac-12 schools are starting to get those facilities to equal the SEC, and some ACC schools have as better facilities as the Pac-12, that's when the Pac-12 can really.
Hey, by the way, Oklahoma's getting a new stadium in 24. You're at UCF. They're talking of renovations with Cindy Ball Malone. I mean, it's not just, and I feel like Pac-12 fan gets defensive, and I get it. There's a lot of pride with the history and the sport. And it's still a great league. I'm not suggesting it isn't. But reality, I mean, the sport is so popular. That's a hell of a spectator sport now. And there are advantages that other schools have over Pac-12 schools. It really speaks to the credit to these coaches in the Pac-12, how they've maintained the success. And I feel like Pac-12 fans are taking it for granted. Like, no, why we had a great year. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, keep up with everybody.
Keep it up with the Joneses.
Yes, and I feel like we also take for granted, like even with just the postseason success of the Pac-12 this year, like we take for granted what they're doing it with compared to what other schools are doing it with. So I think it's one of those things where it's like if they continue to win, it's like you're winning. You know what I mean? Like even though they only have won the national championship in 2019. But in terms of postseason success, and I think that's what they're looking at, how many teams are making the postseason, and you see Oregon State make a run and Stanford make a run, where it's like, oh, you guys are doing it. Like, no, we need more. Like they need more. They deserve more. And imagine what they could do with the things that they deserve.
Well said.
Imagine if they didn't spend money on football facilities, actually spend it on softball. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Well, that's a whole other topic. Brother.
Also, you mentioned Oklahoma, and I remember when Oklahoma came out with their renovation plan, I was thinking like, that's too small. I feel like they could go bigger. Am I wrong?
They're going to need to.
I tend to agree, but I mean, Patty Gasso seems happy with it. So if she's happy, what am I going to say? Hey, Patty, you should ask for more. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, like when I can't remember what the seat count was, but my initial thought was like, that's too small. They need to go bigger. They can get. They can get it. Like here's my thing with softball stadiums, and I don't understand this versus baseball. Why are baseball stadiums so big and administrations are okay with letting them sit empty, but softball stadiums need to be small because we need to keep it looking like it's full?
Preach!
Well said. That's a great point. Because I got to tell you, softball can make revenue. I mean, I can speak only on my behalf. UCF just made revenue this year in softball. This year, I mean, that's a misconception. People think softball. I don't know. You can't make money. That's not true. Softball can make money just like some baseball programs can make money. I will say this: the SEC, to their credit, a lot. I've been to Roadhouse at Alabama. I don't know how many SEC places you've been to, Kenzie, but a lot of their softball stadiums are like minor league baseball parks and pretty big as well, like a baseball stadium. So it's not, I feel like the SEC has figured that out, and maybe some other schools are starting to figure that out slowly.
Okay, I'm reading the comments, and they say that it's going to be 3,000 seats for Oklahoma to start.
To start? Okay.
Bump it up.
Fowler wants more.
Bump it up. Start it at 6. What are we doing? Because baseball, how much do baseball stadiums hold? Like 8, 9? Like
it depends where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. So like obviously our fields aren't as big to like account for the stands and stuff. But like if you're gonna have the ability to host and you have the ability to renovate something, like I'm like sitting here going, let's go bigger, so that way when you have that last month of like the overflow of the basketball fans, like the revenue is cranking. Now I'm not saying you're gonna sell out that stadium every single time, but the revenue opportunity, don't pass it up. So like go big.
How much does Hildebrand right now? What's the capacity there?
35.
What's baseball there?
Just under 35. Baseball's at 9.
Wow, 9, really? That's pretty good.
I have to look that up. Hi, Corbett.
9, okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I agree with you though. I think schools are starting to figure this out slowly. Yeah, Victor, you can attest to this. I do feel that a lot of administrators are starting to realize, hey, softball thing is pretty popular. Maybe we should, clean up the stadium because, again, you can make money. Whereas I think there was the old school thinking of, well, we're going to invest in women's basketball and that's it for women's sports. We're not because, that's the only one that could make money. But I think they've realized now that especially in a lot of these places in the South and all that, they can make money. And I really feel like the Pac-12 is – Pac-12 fans think I'm anti them. I'm actually for them. I think you guys can clean up money if you got to give the fans good facilities to go to.
You're hard on them because you care.
I do. I care about you. I want you to be in a good booth, too.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Like the one thing I will say about the Oklahoma, you may not like the size of it, but the one thing I do like is the press boxes because right now you have to go outside to broadcast in Norman. Oh. So trust me, they're trying to take care of it. And I have a feeling they'll grow that one with OU as much as they can. But that's the thing I hope the Pac-12 schools realize is not only for competition purposes, but for money reasons. You can make a ton of money. I mean, and I've just heard too many complaints about the facility. I won't mention the schools, but you know this. You've traveled throughout the Pac-12. There's a lot of it's not the greatest facilities to be a spectator to watch or even televise in some of those schools at the Pac-12. Just is reality.
Yes. In terms of like broadcasting netting right now, to me, it's like Oregon, Arizona now, they have brand new netting. Oregon was the first to get new netting, so credit them. Kind of get rid of the poles and whatnot. But yeah, Oregon, Arizona. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Well, I'm thinking of, I'm talking about the poles behind home plate where like you have the high center camera, and I think almost every other stadium has those poles. And I'm like, those poles were like 5 years ago, man. We got to get rid of those poles.
Amen to that. I agree with that.
Because how many times is there a diving catch in left field and you turn and the pole's right there and hiding the person? You're like, okay.
I want to ask you about a couple topics before we kind of let you go. Plus, it's late. I think you're coming back with us tomorrow night, right? I mean,
hey, it's only 9:45 over here. I'm great. You guys are like.
It's early for her.
It's true.
See, I understand. I understand why you picked me now because you just wanted somebody who'd be awake and coherent.
Yes, because certainly it's not going to be us.
It's
not going to be us. So you're carrying us. But you were just at the World Series a few days ago, literally with Arizona. You've had some few days to reflect. What stood out to you being there in person?
Oh, it's kind of interesting. It was my first time being down field level. So last year I was up in the booth doing social coverage for Arizona. This year I was down shooting the footage with a camera.
Was that because Victor wasn't there? You're like, well, I just don't want to be here if Victor's not here. I'm just going to move down the field.
I had an excuse not to be there this year.
Pretty much.
See?
Yes.
See, yes. Kenzie misses you, Vic.
Yes, absolutely. The press meals and you know it. No, it was really interesting for me to be field level. I had not been field level in a very long time. I mean, you can sit in the stands and sit like front row, but there's nothing like being on the same level as the players. And at the very first game, I felt like a switch in my mind, and like my athlete came on, and I was like, "Whoa, what is happening?" Like I was ready to play. I was feeling the juices, but it was very interesting after I was reflecting on it, and I felt the game get very slow. And versus all of the times where I'm sitting up in the booth and my heart is racing, and I'm calling the game or watching as a fan, and I'm feeling just so much pressure. I just felt the game get so much slower when I was downfield level, and it kind of took me back to my roots of like, this is just a game. It's the same game you've always played. Nothing's different. It looks exactly the same. It feels exactly the same. And it's kind of interesting how when you're field level, the crowd just kind of goes silent, which is crazy because we're all watching the same game with however many fans are going crazy screaming. But you kind of lose that when you're on the field. So it was kind of a really cool moment for me. After that first inning, I was like, okay, do your job. But I was just kind of sitting there. I was just kind of sitting there and going like, oh, this is really cool. I feel like my old self here. Like the game is slow.
Sounds to me like you want to have that view again.
Yeah, I was like, oh, can I warm up? Can my shoulder do it?
Well, ironically, this Arizona team went the deepest of any Arizona team since your 2010 team. Speak to that, because we've talked a lot about Caitlin Lowe in Arizona the first year. You know this up close. It was not a smooth year at all. So much adversity for them, but they overcame it, had an incredible postseason. And I got to tell you, Mike Kendra was interviewed by in the ESPN broadcast, and he called Caitlin Lowe a rock star for the program. And and I kind of agree. I thought she was a big winner this week, just how she handled the media through all this and just having to turn this around. I think if you're an Arizona fan, you're feeling great about the program moving forward with this run. And, her and Tara Moe, they're going to get to work. They're going to try to improve this team. But I was just so impressed with Caitlin Lowe, the class. And I mean, so Caitlin. And it's blown me away how many people look up to her, which I didn't know until so many comments about her. Just your thoughts overall. All the parties, obviously. But this was a pretty memorable run for Arizona.
No doubt. It was pretty amazing to watch this team make that run. But I feel like there's so much talk about how much that team turned a corner and how much they were able to grow. But to me, it was watching Caitlin as a head coach and watching her turn a corner and watch her start to grow and kind of not change at all, because she was kind of steady, but really just start to elevate and kind of feel herself rise to the occasion. And I feel like in postseason, they all hit that reset. I think there were a lot of strategic and technique things that were changed that I can get into if you want. But in terms of a whole, as just a journey standpoint, I feel like the team responded to her and she led the charge. And it was really special for me to be there in Starkville and witness like up close and personal her first World Series appearance. It was emotional. It was beautiful. It was all the things. So definitely a moment that I will never forget, just being there and witnessing it, because it was well earned, and it was tough to get to OKC for this team, but they did it.
Incredible. Oh, that's right. You were in Starkville. They have a nice facilities there too.
Yeah, so I went from I've been on the road for quite the month. I was in Nebraska because my sister had a baby, so I went up there for that.
She had a nice year too in her broadcasting year debut there in Nebraska. Nate Rohr.
Yes, she did. He was born right before postseason, so he got to watch them win the Big Ten tournament and win and go to the regionals. But so I went from Nebraska to LA for my regional assignment there, and then once Arizona advanced to supers, they were like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I hopped on a plane and went to Starkville, and then somehow ended up in a pool, and then we flew to OKC.
That's some travel mileage there. That's pretty good. We'll talk to you about UCLA and I thought they were impressive too with their Megan Faremo. I thought took a big step this year in the world. So we'll talk more about that. We'll save that for tomorrow because we might need the material depending on how the game goes. But speaking of travel, it was announced last night the Clearwater Field for 2023. Hey, Arizona's in Clearwater, Victor. So here's the question, Kenzie. Do we get Kenzie to Clearwater? Can this happen? Is this a possibility?
I texted my sister and I was like, "Dude, let's go."
Oh, that's right. Nebraska's in there as well. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, "Bring Beck. Like, let's go. Like, let's just fly out there and do it." So the talks are there.
Yes, Victor. This is exciting, Vic.
Yes, I'm already working on a hashtag right now. So as y'all were talking.
So listen, because full disclosure, so me and Kenzie have talked off the air. We've texted about, hey, man, we got to do a game together at some point, right? We got to do a game at some point. I don't know how we're going to do it. She's West Coast. It's not, Now we might, first of all, I might actually meet you in person, which has not actually happened in all these years. We've known each other now for a while. Weird. Right. It hasn't happened. But I'm going to be in Clearwater. I'm scheduled to be in Clearwater with Victor's expertise, because you don't know this. It's not the greatest facility to do a radio broadcast. However, lucky for me, I know the person that is the expert in calling games at Eddie C. Moore Stadium, because no man has ever called more games at Eddie C. Moore Stadium in Clearwater than Victor Anderson from many different areas.
Yeah, but not on top of a scaffolding and left center field like Auburn did last year. So
let's hope we don't have to do that. So I'm going to ask Victor, but here's my proposal to you, Kenzie. If I had figured this out, if I do a road game, a UCF game there, I feel like you got to hop in for an inning or two. Right?
I feel like it's gotta happen. Now you're putting me on the spot with get Kenzie to Clearwater. Oh my goodness, you guys. I'm just kidding.
We're just trying to help you.
It's so hard for me because the short answer yes if I'm there. But it's so hard for me because I'm like, if I go, I'm always like working, whether I'm calling a game or doing social or being a Pac-12 reporter. Like, it's so rare for me to be at any softball game as a fan. So jury's out of what hat I will be wearing if I go.
So what you're saying is, if you go, you just don't want to know you don't want people to know you're there. So let's go ahead and take down the hashtag. So she wants to be Clark Kent. She's like Clark Kent. She just wants to be Clark Kent there in Clearwater. That's why she's got the glasses on.
Okay, fine.
Oh my God, you guys are hilarious.
I will say, because this is Arizona's first time. I'm assuming it's your first time. It's a cool tournament. Victor and I have been there. It's
I
wanted a postseason feel.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like it's so fun to watch on TV, but it's also like, man, I just need to go there in person, check it out, because it's like it looks like club ball, but meets the World Series, which is like chaos.
I will warn you, from a seeding standpoint, not the most. They've kind of underrated how popular this tournament is. So let's just say it's not the most ideal seeding, right, Vic? I'm being nice.
Exactly.
Wait, so are you talking about a stadium not being able to hold the amount of people who are coming to watch our sport?
Correct.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm giving you the invite to sit with me if I figure out where to broadcast, which that's a whole
smart.
See, I'm giving you a seat.
Okay, smart.
Or Vic, because Victor might be broadcasting. And he might give you the seat.
Brother, I may have other obligations that weekend. Let's not get.
Yeah, you might be the executive producer for all the radio that's going to be over there. Nate Rohr is going to be there. The Alabama radio guys are going to be there. Like, I feel like you're going to be a gun for hire.
Brother, can I worry about what I'm doing in the fall, much less what's going on in February 2023?
I'm just excited because I might meet Kenzie Fowler in person, and and she might hop in for an inning or two. All right,
Yes.
that's my goal. Because let's be real, when else is that going to happen? All right,
Yeah.
all right. So last question before we let you go here. What do you expect to see tomorrow? What do you want to see? What can you tell us about tomorrow in game 2 here to kind of to see if can Texas make this interesting?
I think they can. They're a good team. I don't want that to get lost in what we saw today. They're a good team, and are they the best team? To face Oklahoma? No, but they're the hottest team, and they're the hottest team because of what they've been able to do in this tournament, and they've done a lot of good things. So I would love for Texas pitching to come out with a different mindset, and I would love to really see them use it strategically, like I've been talking about. One time through the lineup and hand the ball off. One time through the lineup, hand the ball off. And you've got to be able to just trust in that because OU's too good. It's one of those things where it's like they don't have any secrets. I mean, maybe Estelle Check maybe is a secret because they didn't see her, but at this point, no secrets. Let's just straight up use the full staff and use them how they should be used.
That is Kenzie Fowler, 2-time All-American, of course, led Arizona to the 2010 Women's College World Series National Championship Series. Pac-12 analyst, has done ESPN regionals, has many hats at Arizona, too many to name. She's like Superwoman when she's doing the broadcast, and then she's Clark Kent when she's at Arizona.
Just got all the angles.
There you go. Thank you for coming on. We'll do this again tomorrow night. Hopefully we'll have a better game, but we'll still talk. We'll talk.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Kenzie Fowler joining us. Always the best. Man.
Yes.
That's exciting. Always enjoy talking to her. I'm excited. Sounds like she might be in Clearwater, Victor.
Yes. We're looking forward to hopefully making that happen, my brother.
That's a lot of broadcast people, man. I know you've got some plans you were telling me about.
We will disclose those plans during our off season.
All right, fair enough. Let's got a couple quick thoughts here, Victor, before we wrap it up. I mean, I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Kenzie because I don't have an answer to this. What do you want to see? What do you expect tomorrow?
It goes back to what I talked about earlier before we had Kenzie on. Oh, you can't let Oklahoma jump out early since they're the visiting team. You got to keep them scoreless. Heck, if you limit them to a run, that's a victory. Because you remember, UCLA, 3 batters in, they were down 3-0. Saw it tonight, 3 batters in, they were trailing 2-0.
Yeah, you're not chasing Oklahoma down if they get off to a fast start.
Oklahoma thrives best when they're jumping in front of you early and they're front running and they are putting the pressure on you as a team. So for Texas, they have to get out to a good start, limit Oklahoma, keep the crowd out of it as much as possible. And the biggest thing, Janae Jefferson has to show up. Her
and her friends, yeah. It set the tone. I agree. So we'll see what happens with that. Game 2 tomorrow night. Now, Victor, I want to talk about the podcast real quick because you worked on it. This is the champ. I love the title, the Championship Podcast. Give us a kind of a couple of nuggets. What can people expect from Thursday's In the Circle podcast?
Yeah, well, technically it's Thursday right now where we are. So.
In the East Coast, yes.
In the East Coast is Thursday.
We are international, Victor. I don't know if there are people from England there too. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, go ahead.
It's the World Night phenomenon that is In the Circle. So yeah, coming up on our podcast later on today, we're gonna have Coach Rogers from the Coach Vaughn, Andrea Vaughn for the national champions Rogers State. She shares her thoughts about going through that fire and winning the national championship in Denver. We also will be joined by D3 national champion Keith Parr of Christopher Newport. 47-1 were the captains this year. Best winning percentage of any team in all of NCAA softball. That includes Oklahoma. So we talked to them about their path to the championship. And Coach Parr shares the story about retiring a number of one of the greatest players ever and when that announcement was made. All that and more coming up on a podcast that will be released later on this morning. Download and subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Rate and review us 5 stars. And hey, we're gonna be back at it again in about about 16 hours from now. 17 hours from now.
15, yeah, I think you're right about that. We'll be on, what is it, 6 o'clock Eastern?
6 o'clock Eastern. Yes.
Are you with us on the pregame, or are you you got other
I will be with you on the pregame show tomorrow, and there's a very good reason I'll be on the pregame show tomorrow, because we will be joined by UCF head coach Sydney Ball Malone. She'll be on a pregame show. That is the plan for tomorrow night. And then for our postgame show, we will have Kenzie Fowler back. Hopefully, we'll have a little more interesting things to talk about instead of another blowout.
Otherwise, we'll just break down the Clearwater broadcast setup. I mean, I don't know.
Might as well. That might be more interesting to the game.
But yeah, it's pretty good there. It's going to be fun. And thanks to Laura Trout, by the way, and Elisa Goller. They were fantastic in the pregame show. Victor, I know you got a chance to chime in. I listened to a little bit of that. I mean, they were fantastic. Thanks to her. Thanks to Tracy Addix Zins, who we might try to sneak in. We'll see. I was kind of saving it for game 3, but I'm a little worried, Victor. We may not have a game.
I don't think we may have a game 3.
So you're saying I may have to sneak her into the pregame tomorrow?
Yep, that's a possibility.
All right, I take your advice on that, folks. But make sure you check it out. If you missed any of this, you can check it out on our archives on In the Circle YouTube channel. Please subscribe. That really helps us a lot. Give us the thumbs up. I'm going to, as soon as we sign off here in the next couple of minutes, fire alarm Vic. People haven't forgotten, Vic. One of the great moments in the history of this show.
Thankfully, no fire alarms.
Fire alarm Vic, OKC. One of the memorable moments of In the Circle Live. And I'm gonna, as soon as we get off, I'm gonna upload the post games for both OU and Texas. Look for that on the YouTube channel. I know a lot of you have really appreciated that, because we're the only place that actually uploads the entire post-game press conferences. It's kind of wild to me, but unedited. So I know a lot of you look for that, and certainly we appreciate it. So I'm going to work on that. So I still got a long night ahead, but we'll be back on at 6 Eastern to preview Game 2. Remember, it's a 7:30 Eastern start time tomorrow on ESPN2, so make that adjustment a little bit as Oklahoma goes for history. They go for back-to-back. Texas tries to bounce back and make this a series. And then, as Victor mentioned, right after Game 2 ends, we'll have Kenzie Fowler to talk either Oklahoma's national title or a Game 3, and we'll see from there. So make sure you check out the podcast later this morning. Make sure you subscribe to that. That's a great show there. We always have the national champions. Also, for you Sooner fans, we had Nicole Mendez on the Tuesday edition on the podcast. So we're just bit packed here, folks. Vic, last thoughts.
Well, are we going to see a coronation, or are we going to see the start of a potential historic comeback? We will all find out together in less than 18 hours from now.
Not that he's counting or anything.
No, not at all.
Thanks to Vic for producing as well on the show behind the scenes and all the work. I'm Eric Lopez. Thanks to all of you. Incredible numbers. I mean, it's 1 a.m. and y'all are watching. I mean, we heard you. That's why we're doing the late show, because y'all demanded it. You guys been fantastic. We'll talk to you later on. Enjoy it. Oklahoma wins Game 1, 16-1. This has been In the Circle Live.
Free Brittany Grinder, and good night, Canada.